What's up guys, it's Sergey from Freediving, and today we're going to talk about different problems which can happen in freediving. It's going to be LMC, blackout and shallow water blackout. We're going to talk about why they happen and how to avoid them. But before we start, if you're new to my channel, please consider the idea to subscribe to it. Here on a weekly basis I'm sharing some freediving information, some freediving training tips, and from time to time I'm doing review about different freediving products, which probably I'm gonna do a little bit more often in the near future. Okay, different freediving problems. Let's start with LMC. LMC stands for loss of motor control. How it happens? Let's say a freediver holding his breath in the pool during the static apnea, and then freediver already have a contractions because of the high level of CO2, but because he have some experience with them, he keep holding his breath despite the contractions becoming harder and harder and harder, and then at some point the level of oxygen gonna be quite small, and then freediver can have a LMC. So LMC is all about low oxygen. It's not sufficient oxygen. Again, don't be confused, the freediver still have a lot of oxygen in the body, so the oxygen still circulating in the blood, the brain receive enough oxygen for its function, but it's not enough oxygen for, let's say, some small function. So usually the symptoms of LMC can be really small. Let's say freediver have a blue lips, or freediver have a like slightly whitish color of the skin, or maybe a little bit shaking of the eyes, or maybe even the head movement a little bit, or it can be bigger. Let's say losing of coordination, or like a body shaking. This is why sometimes LMC can be called samba. It's like the same name what Brazilian dance have. I don't know who decide to call LMC samba, but so this is what LMC. Again, LMC is not enough oxygen for the normal function. The oxygen is still inside the body, the oxygen is still in the lungs, in the blood, in the tissues, but it's not enough for the normal function. Okay, so this is LMC. Is LMC dangerous or not? If you're training with a freediving body, which you should, if you're training in the water, you do static or dynamic, or especially depths, you always should train with a freediving body, right? And let's say if you have a LMC, your freediving body simply like support you, making sure that your airway is above the water, and then within a few seconds your LMC will gone. Okay, you're gonna be completely recovered, and then it can be just a lesson in your life that okay, maybe you've done something wrong, maybe you was pushing too hard, maybe this number which you was aiming a little bit too early for you. But if you are training in the water and you're training on your own, if in a really unlikely scenario you have a LMC, then the chances that it can be a really big problem for you, because if you have a LMC and there is no one around who can help you, it can be a huge problem. This is why we have the first rule in freediving: you never freedive alone. Okay, next problem which can happen is a blackout. Blackout, it is when freediver hold their breath even longer and the level of oxygen going even lower, and then freediver can have blackout, which is simply unconscious. So how it can looks like: freediver hold his breath, let's say during the static apnea, keep holding, the contractions becoming harder and harder and harder because of the high level of CO2, but at the same time the level of oxygen going smaller and smaller and smaller, and at some point it's going to be not enough to support normal function. Again, the blackout is the same like an LMC, happens because it is a low level of oxygen. Okay, in this case, is it a big deal or not big deal? So if you're training again with your freediving body who knows what to do, who knows how to react, then freediving body is simply gonna do the rescue procedure for you. Or if your freediving body have a blackout, then you're gonna do a rescue procedure for him or for her, and then it's gonna be not that big deal. I'm not saying that the blackout is a things which you want to have. 100% you want to avoid it as much as possible, right? You don't want to have a not LMC, not blackout. Doesn't matter how long you're training, and doesn't matter what your ambitions. Do you want to just do 4 or 5 minutes breath hold, or you want to be a national champion or maybe a world champion? In any case, you want to avoid LMC and blackout. However, if this LMC or blackout happened, and if you have a freediving buddy who knows what to do, it's actually not the big deal how to react on it. On one of my next video, I'm going to show you how to deal with the LMC and blackout in a pool. So in the next part is a shallow water blackout. It stands a little bit aside because LMC and blackout can happen anywhere. It can happen in a pool, and shallow water blackout usually happens when freediver diving in the ocean, when you ascending from the depths. This is why some people don't like the term shallow water blackout. They prefer call it blackout on ascent, which is probably a little bit more correct, more accurate. So let's find out how it happens. As you remember from the theory from your courses, from the freediving courses or from scuba diving courses, or maybe from the school physics, the pressure is changing quite fast during your descent, right? So let's say on the surface you have a 1 atmosphere pressure. And then when you're diving even for the 10 meters, the pressure is going to double and it's going to be 2 atmosphere. At 20 meters it is a 3 atmosphere, and at 30 meters it is a 4 atmosphere. So as you can see, every 10 meters the pressure increase like +1 atmosphere. So when you're diving, obviously you're going to spend oxygen on your way down, right? So let's say you're kicking or you're doing free immersion, which is when you're pulling the rope. Then you're going down, and of course you're going to spend some oxygen for this. But in the same time, because the pressure, outside pressure is increasing, the pressure of the oxygen in your body is also going to increase. And this is why freedivers not losing their consciousness on their way down, but they're losing the consciousness on their way up. Because when you reach, let's say 30 or 50 or 70 meters, your level of oxygen is already smaller than it was on the surface, of course. And now you turn and now you start your ascent. And during your ascent, you're still using this oxygen, you're still consuming the oxygen, but at the same time, because the pressure is now decreasing, the partial pressure of the oxygen is also decreasing. And this is why, especially on the last maybe like 10 meters, somewhere here, it is a chance to have a shallow water blackout. The shallow water blackout, why shallow? Because normally it happens somewhere between 10 and 0, or it can happen even shallow, it can happen maybe at 5 meters, or it can happen even on the surface. It's still going to be called shallow water blackout. Again, maybe it's a little bit more accurate to call it blackout on ascent. I don't mind. So is it shallow water blackout dangerous or not? Of course you want to avoid this problem. So especially in open water, you don't want to have these problems, because in open water the safety is a little bit less compared to the swimming pool. In the swimming pool, like, it's closer to different emergency facilities. It's easier to pull the diver out of the water. So LMC and blackout is a little bit more easy to deal with. With the shallow water blackout, it's a little bit more difficult, right? So first of all, this is why we have a freediving buddy, which is safety diver. So when we are ascending, someone's supposed to meet you at certain depths and escort you to the surface. And if your safety buddy see that you have some problems, your safety buddy going to help you to reach the surface, or maybe even bring you to the surface if you're becoming unconscious. So is it really dangerous? It can be dangerous, and especially it can be dangerous if you're diving alone. This is what happens a lot when people do spearfishing, because normally spearfishers do it alone, and then if they lost the conscious on the last few meters, it's really small chances that somehow they can recover by themselves. So yeah, it can be dangerous. At the same time, if you're diving along the line and if you're using the safety lanyard, which I do recommend you to do safety lanyard, even when you do relatively shallow dives, do use the safety lanyard. So if you're diving along the line, if you use safety lanyard and you have a freediving buddy who knows what to do, then again it can be treated quite easily. I saw a few shallow water blackouts, and You just need to bring the diver up. We're going to discuss it on one of my next video, how to deal with this. So it can be not that huge problems, right? And especially if your freediving body is really experienced, then it can be not the big deal. However, of course, all of these problems you want to avoid. Again, you might know some freedivers who have a 10 times LMC, 20 times blackout, 10 times shallow water blackout. It's not the good role model, right? So freediving is not about losing the conscious, absolutely not. And you can increase your results slowly, step by step, and you can have a quite good results. Okay, maybe you're not going to become a world champion, but you can have a good results without having these problems. Okay, now it's really important how to avoid all of these problems, how to avoid LMC, how to avoid blackout, and how to avoid shallow water blackout. There are a few common advices. So first of all, don't do hyperventilation. As you remember about my previous video about hyperventilation, when you do hyperventilation, you remove carbon dioxide from your body. And then, if you remove this carbon dioxide from your body, you can come close to your hypoxia limit without any warning sign. Okay, so this is why no hyperventilation. Also, if you do hyperventilation, it's also possible to have a blackout just because of this. Like I was saying in a previous video, it calls hyperventilation induced blackout. So don't do hyperventilation. Next one, be moderate with your progress. It means if you reach some number, let's say if you reach already, let's say 3 minutes breath hold, be slow on your way to 4 minutes. Maybe try to increase your personal best like by 5 seconds or maybe by 10 seconds. And between your personal best attempts, make sure you have enough of training days, right? Make sure you manage your relaxation, make sure you manage your technique, and then try to do maybe a little bit more. So the progress is important as in any other sport. If you want to be better, obviously you want to hold your breath a little bit longer or do a little bit longer distance. So progress is important. But at the same time, make sure it is like slowly, step by step. And the same is true in any other sports. If you're lifting weights and if you're managing, let's say, do a deadlift 100 kilograms, you're not trying to do 200 kilograms, right? You're going to try to do 110 or maybe 120. And if you do big jumps, then you can have an injury. And the same in freediving. If you do a big jumps between your personal best without appropriate training, then it's quite easily to have freediving problems. So the next one, recovery breathing after every breath hold. Again, it might be not going to help you with the shallow water blackout if you're losing your conscious even before you reach the surface. But sometimes freedivers reach the surface and then because they fail to do proper recovery, or if it is a competition, if they start to doing surface protocol, then what can bring them to the LMC and eventually to the blackout. So whenever you reach the surface, is it the surface of the swimming pool or is it surface in the ocean, make sure you support, you use the side of the pool or you use a freediving float. Okay, and the next one, don't forget that your personal best is not going to be any days, right? Again, it is the same for any other sport. Olympic athletes training for 4 years to reach their peak. So in your case, if you've done, let's say, 3 minutes at one day, 3 minutes static breath hold, maybe it was because you have a really good sleep, you doesn't have a big breakfast, your safety body was saying exact words for you, the temperature of the water in the pool was absolutely the best for you, and then you was managed to do your personal best. However, on the next day, if let's say you sleep not really well, or maybe you have a by accident you have a big breakfast, or maybe the water is too cold or too warm, then it's maybe going to be not possible for you to do a personal best. In this case, nothing wrong if you're going to stop before you're going to reach your old personal best. You can call it give up, nothing wrong to give up, and then maybe you're going to try it on the next day. Okay, don't try to achieve your personal best on any single freediving training session. Okay guys, this is a general advice about how to avoid shallow water blackout and LMC. I'm gonna put all of this information in the description below, so feel free to read it, copy, paste it, share it with your friends. And thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate the time which you're spending by watching my video. If you have any freediving friends for whom you think this information can be useful, feel free to share this information in your social media. It's gonna mean a lot for me. Okay, thank you very much for watching my video. See you next time.